Hey, it's Mack with PriceActionTradingSystem.com, and it is Wednesday. It's April 20th. This will be our chart lesson for the day. And it looked like, you notice we finally got through the 2100 level. Notice how we pushed through there several times before, but we still couldn't close above it. And that's pretty typical. We did push through though finally, so it's a chance we could. A lot of times what will happen is prices will swing back and forth around this area for quite a while. And notice how we were all along this area yesterday and we couldn't quite get through those same. That 2098 was really the killer, kind of the kicker point, and we finally pushed through it. But we didn't close the boat. We closed right back below it again. So we'll have to see. But it looked like we were going to have a range day, but we ended up rallying pretty good through the 2 o'clock hour, which is generally our cutoff hour. I would have measured this first move up, and once we took off from there, that would have been my first target. And we ended up going further than that. I would have also used a target here and been looking for that for a possibility, but we didn't get anywhere near that. You can see we came up maybe 3 points short of that. So, but that's how I would have been looking for my targets. And you might have considered measuring. I would have measured here first. This would have been a target as well. And you can see prices got into that area and backed up a little bit. But I would have also just measured this whole range and look for that as well. And that really gave you the same target as measuring this first leg. It's not really any difference than that because that's the overnight highs and lows. And so that would have got you the same target. So that was a couple of different ways I would have looked at it as well. And then let's just back out and talk about the trades. I'll try to do this a little bit earlier each day just so I can get out of here a little earlier. But notice what happened. You got this trend channel working up. We overshot it. And just remember, a lot of times when you get an overshoot, you won't get a retest. And if it's a range day, you may not get a retest. We ended up getting one. You can see that, but it didn't matter. On the shorter term, we got the overshoot, and then we had one working down, and we had a break. We really had a break here, and then a new low, but we also had the overshoot again on this side. Then we had one working up, break. We never could get a new high though, and we just kept working down. And then finally it reversed. We got one working up, break, new high. Then we're working down, close outside, new low. And then we worked up the rest of the day. We had a break right here really early, but it still pushed quite a bit higher. So, but anyway, let's talk about the trades that I saw. We came in, we really had a failed second entry long here, but it didn't trigger a failure till here. And by that time, it had pushed up even again, but notice it never broke lower until right there. And that's a nice reversal bar inside that trend line. Go short right there. It's tempting to add on, but once we continue to go sideways and couldn't go lower, I wouldn't have added on to this. I would wait and see if you get a breakout, pull back short, and guess what we do? It breaks lower, it pulls back, and notice how everything's still closing and opening below that trend line. And then you get this big bearish bar on that breakout pullback short. And that's a double top right there. So you can count this as a failed second entry long as well. That's another reason I like it. And look at it go. It does come back again right here, but I don't like that signal bar. It's a first entry. There's not much room here. I think you're better off to wait. And it does bounce here. And I meant to circle this one in green because of the overshoot. Forgot to circle this one. It's a little bit aggressive, and it could almost be blue. If it was further away from the EMA, I'd make that blue because it's an overshoot. First of all, it doesn't matter if we had a break, but we did have a break back here, and we got more than a couple of measured legs down. and it's just not that far. But another thing too is you got some support right here, and it's like a little failed break lower, and it's a fairly bullish reversal bar. You might have used a limit order, let it break high, and put one right at the top, or maybe one tick in, and you would have gotten filled. One tick in, or at the top, even right here. It's tempting to add on here, or really you'd just be a new trade because you'd got your scalp and it backed up. But it would be tempting to add on, to enter here or add on, but we're still, notice how it still can't close above that trend line, so you had to respect it right there. And I just don't think I'd go long right into it without another failure, without that failed second entry short, and we never get it. It just pushes up and then it starts working lower. And they're really probably, this is so close that they're, prices are still trying to make a new low, and it takes it one, two, really the third time before it pushes down and makes a new low and goes higher. And so that's my thinking here, is that, but the clue that we're going to go lower here, this is also rangy, so you can kind of trade it both ways. But the clue is, notice how this high, this one's lower than that one, and then you get a double top here lower than that one. That's a good sign that we're going to break on through. That's generally what happens. Otherwise, we should run to the other side of the high each time. And when you start making those lower highs, so basically what that's telling you is that each bounce here is losing steam. This first bounce got a pretty good push. So this second bounce should go further than it if we're going higher, and it can't get as high as the previous push. And then you come back and you get a double top that can't even get, it's only about 50% of that whole move. And so I like that one. If you had a better signal bar and you had a little more room here, I'd make that one red, but it's right into that support there, so I'm a little bit leery of it. But it's a failed, this is really a failed second entry long, because actually no, it's not, because we did break lower right there. So that's where your failure, and that's why you wouldn't take that second entry long. But this is a second entry short. Pullback first entry, pullback second entry. But it's not a very, I mean, it's certainly not a bullish bar. It's more neutral than anything. And it is a double top, and it did break higher though, so probably trap some people. So for that reason, I made it aggressive. I think I failed to talk about these trades here. This one's coming down, you get the break and another measured leg down, and where does it bounce? Right where the last support was. So I like that one. Looking for it to go to the other side, but it doesn't. It turns down right here. But notice what you get here. You get a first entry short, second entry short. And I like this one because if you pull this line down, you can see your resistance is started across here. Look how it's running across there. So really the top of your range is almost here. But notice how it closes. Even the closes can't close as high near that. So I like that one for a short. That's why I liked it. And then you get the second entry here. It is aggressive because it's not a very good signal bar. It's really close to the support that's holding every time. But notice how the highs are just getting lower all the way down through here. And there may even be a trend line you can find there. I hadn't even tried. You don't really need it. But yeah, you can really get a trend line off of that. It's so flat that you're better off just to play the range. Just see how it fits on the other side. There it is right there, and there's that gap. I mean, that's always watch for those gaps. You can treat those gaps like you can basically treat them like highs and lows. Don't ask me why it does that, but you'll see it over and over and over. So yeah, you got a range, you got a trend channel working there. It's so flat that it doesn't matter, but it's there, no doubt about it. I'm going to move out of the way just so the chart's not so cluttered. But yeah, we move down. We finally start going sideways here, and you get this failure with a nice bullish bar, and we're a good bit away from the EMA. So I like taking that one back to the high, and then you get your failed second entry short here. Notice you got one. There's two swings in this leg, but that's one leg up, then a correction, then a second leg up. So you got two measured legs up with a failed second entry short and a bounce right off the trend line. Basically, this was really the one I use as a signal bar. So when it broke higher there, uh, you could have actually tried a limit order just to get a better entry, but this is a trap, and it's really off that trend line. And this trend line could actually be over a little more, and then you can see that's pretty close to touching it. Doesn't matter, it's close enough. You could even have that over a little more because we're still closing inside that. This doesn't close outside, and off it goes. And so this is a failed second entry short. I like it at least to here, and who knows, we may keep going. This is why I like these trades right here, because sometimes you catch these, and these are the places where you catch them, and they're the low of the day, and you can ride it all day long. In this case, it would have come back and filled the limit order. Filled your break-even stops or triggered them, unless you got in with a limit order a couple of ticks back. And that's why it's always a little better to try to get a little better entry, especially if it's a place where you're going to get runners. But sometimes these trades don't come back and fill limit orders. They just take off because they trap so many people to the short side. And that's another thing about this trade right here, or this one. This is a failed break lower as well, because you're going sideways here, and so we're probably going to snap back and come back in. And notice we did not test this area yet until here, and that's why it turned down there, because a lot of people are going to resell there when it comes back, hoping they catch the next move down, and they don't know what's going on, and instead we end up getting back into the range and going higher. So, but yeah, your failed second entry short there. We're working higher. Second entry long here. This is really the first close outside here, so we're going to make a new high. So I like that one, that second entry long right there. And if this would have turned and went higher and then turned down and gave that bearish bar, I would have liked going short there. There's actually a short right here. Notice what happens. First entry, pull back second entry. So that's a trap. So you could trade that one. I really don't like it because you got all the overlap. They're all three dojis. So the only way I would say you could enter that one is if you could get filled on this very next bar that breaks lower by backing up. If you could do that and get filled a couple of ticks in, yes, maybe. And one way to know this was coming back here was because this was a breakout area. We hadn't tested it yet. And so that's what prices were doing. They were coming back here to test that breakout area. And if you move the line up there to the closes, you can see we tested it. The closes are right there on it, and then it bounces. So I don't like going long there either. It's not a very good long setup. But then you go up, and notice how you made a little higher high here, and then you two legs back, second entry long right there. And then this makes a new low because it's lower than that swing low. So pull back first entry, pull back second entry. That's a failed second entry short right off the EMA, right off the possible trend line. Go long right there. And then it pulls back one more time. This is like a breakout pullback long because there's a little bit of resistance working across there. You can see that resistance, and that's a pull. So that's a breakout pullback long. It's a first entry. There's a little bit of congestion there, but that's because people are trying to sell, but it's right into that trend line, right into the EMA, right into the previous resistance. It's still a little aggressive because there's not much room to get out. It's not a perfect setup, as I just talked about. But if you want to be aggressive, you're going to take that long right there. And that was it for the day. Wasn't anything else after that one. Just trying to see if there's anything else we missed here. That's pretty much it. And actually you could have considered a short right there, but with that trend line being right there, I wouldn't have taken that one. and you could almost get that off those first few swings, but regardless, if you draw it off these two up here and drag it down, you're looking for a bounce there. When it pushes on through, that's questionable. Um, so, but that would still be the first break of that trend line, and we're going to test this high. So I like it back to the upside. And this is still looking kind of, that point you would have had some support right there, and you see that bounce off that support as well. So that was something I forgot to talk about. Sometimes I forget little nuances to talk about on some of this stuff um, after the fact, but if I go back and start thinking about, if I was trading at that time, I usually remember a lot more of the nuances that I was thinking at the moment. And so sometimes I try to get through this thing and I forget little things that I should tell you about like that. So um, I think that's it for today. Not much else. Somebody actually sent me something and said that, they were asking me if it was really hard to find any entries today. And it's not if you understand what type of day it is. This is a range day, and you can trade it both ways, but you got to understand what prices are doing and where they're headed, and you got to follow the rules pretty closely. And it comes down a lot to experience. But I like these kind of days when this is not as easy. The lows were pretty obvious here. But the highs weren't because we were making lower highs. But you need to understand that generally means you're going to break through that support area, or if you're making higher lows, you're going to probably break through the resistance area. So just keep that in mind. And a lot of times, what they have to do to get it out the top side is to let it fail out the bottom, and they get all these shorts built up, and they run all these stops down here, and then they reverse it, and all those people have to reverse. All these shorts getting short in here got to reverse, and that gives it enough momentum to push it on through and take it out the other side. So it's interesting once you understand kind of what prices are doing. You with experience you get a feel for this, and you can almost anticipate what's going to happen. Now, you don't know that it's going to fail lower here, but when it does, you can anticipate that it's probably going to fail, and then that might be enough to catch the low of the day, and it might be enough to push it on through the upper side too. And it did. It went straight on through here. And notice it came back and tested it like prices almost always do that. And then it took off. So that's pretty much it for today. I'm not going to drag it out. I'm going to wrap it up for the day. We'll be back again to do it tomorrow. But I'm done for today. This is Mack with PriceActionTradingSystem.com, and we'll see you next time.